It's funny how sometimes the biggest, most incredible stories are hiding inside the smallest objects. How could a massive, world-changing empire, I mean, we're talking conquest, trade, the whole shebang, be understood through just a single piece of metal? Well, let's dive in and find out. So take a look at this. It's a metal tablet from the 13th century, maybe about the size of your hand. Looks simple enough, right? But back in its day, this thing held an unbelievable amount of power. I'm talking the power to command resources, to guarantee your safety across a continent, and even the power of life and death. The real question is, how?
Okay, to really get it, let's think in today's terms. This little object wasn't just some fancy badge. It was like a passport that let you travel across the largest empire on Earth. It was like a credit card with the emperor's unlimited credit line, and it was your all-access pass to the entire infrastructure of that empire. So what's it actually called? Its formal name is a paisa, which comes from a Chinese word for a tablet. In Mongolian, they called it a gerige, which means that which bears witness. And man, that's the perfect description. It was physical proof of the Khan's authority, basically delegated to whoever was carrying it. It gave them the right to demand anything they needed in his name.
Okay, so we know it gave you authority, but just how much authority are we talking about here? This is where things get really, really serious. On the older versions of these paisas, the inscription tells you everything you need to know. It wasn't a request, it was a divine command, and it was backed up by a death sentence. It started with, "By the power of eternal heaven," and ended with a pretty stark warning, "Anyone who doesn't respect it shall be punished, shall die." I mean, think about that. This small object carried the ultimate weight of the entire empire. And you gotta understand, these weren't just handed out to anybody. The people who carried them were the absolute essential cogs in the imperial machine. You had the official messengers, the El Chin, who were basically the empire's nervous system. Military commanders, of course, but also local rulers who'd submitted to the Mongols, and even merchants who were trading with the empire's money. And what's really interesting, clergy from major religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam got them too, which basically made them part of the imperial elite.
Now, to really appreciate why this little tablet was such a game changer, we have to zoom way, way out and understand the enormous problem it was created to solve.
The Mongol Empire was just massive. I mean, it's hard to even wrap your head around the scale. At its height, it was the largest single land empire in history. It stretched from the Sea of Japan all the way to the Carpathian Mountains in Europe, a colossal territory filled with all kinds of different people, languages, and cultures. So, this brings up the fundamental question for any empire this big. How do you do it? How do you send messages, move your armies, and manage supplies across millions of square miles without phones or email or any modern tech? How do you possibly hold it all together? Well, the answer was a system of logistical brilliance that is honestly breathtaking. And the paisa? That was the key that unlocked the whole thing. This system was called the Jam. Think of it like the empire's circulatory system. It was this incredible network of roads and relay stations all placed strategically, where a traveler holding a pica could get fresh horses, food, a safe place to sleep, and then get back on their journey at top speed. And the scale of this network is just wild. In the territory that was ruled directly by Kublai Khan, just in the late 13th century, there were more than 1,400 of these post stations. And the resources needed to keep this thing running were just staggering. In just that one part of the empire, the system used over 44,000 horses, thousands of oxen, even, get this, 3,000 sled dogs for the routes up in Manchuria. This was a mind-bogglingly complex and expensive state-run operation, all designed just to keep the empire connected. And the paisa was your golden ticket. But a system this good doesn't just stay the same. It evolves. And it got a major upgrade under one of the most famous Khans of all, who had this grand vision for a truly universal empire. And that was Kublai Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan. He wasn't just a conqueror, he was an administrator, a real reformer. He wanted to create a more unified, multi-ethnic empire that would last. So he went about streamlining and changing almost every part of the Mongol government, and that included the paisa system. You can actually see one of his reforms right here. He changed the very shape of the paisas that messengers used. The traditional ones were oblong, but Kublai introduced these new, round paisas specifically for his post-road system. The one we've been looking at this whole time is a perfect example of his innovation. But his most significant change, the most ambitious one, was the script itself. To try and bridge all the language divides in his vast empire, Kublai hired a Tibetan monk, the Pax Mongolica, to create a brand new, universal script that could be used for all the major languages. The writing you see on this paisa is that very Pakpa script, a physical symbol of his incredible universal vision. So this little object, this paisa, and the massive system behind it, they didn't just hold an empire together. Nope, they've fundamentally reshaped the entire world. And the consequences are still echoing today. The result of this hyper-connected network was a period that historians call the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. For the first time in history, one single power controlled the whole length of the Silk Road. And the security that the paisa and the jam system provided meant that merchants, missionaries, and travelers could go all the way from Europe to China with a level of safety that was just unimaginable before. And the legacy of this era? Whoa, it is huge. Technologies like gunpowder and printing moved west, completely changing the course of European history. Knowledge was flowing in every direction. But then, when the Mongol Empire started to break apart, those safe routes closed down. The thing is, the European desire for Eastern goods didn't go away. And that, in a roundabout way, helped kickstart the European age of exploration, as guys like Columbus started looking for new sea routes to get to the east. So yeah, we come full circle, back to a single object telling a vast story. It really makes you think, right? If a future historian found just one thing from our time, one object, what would best explain our own interconnected global world? What's our paisa?